All right, TexAgs Rewind on a Wednesday. Ryan Brauninger in the host chair for the final day this week as David Nuno continues his cruise. He'll be back on Monday. But today, a lot more conference realignment talk with Olin Buchanan. We had Billy Liucci call in. The super conferences, they're coming. You can't do anything about it at this point. There's no stopping it. It's about who's going to be able to jump in the boat and which boat will they be jumping into. So we had OB and Liucci come on to talk about that. In the 10 o'clock hour, as always on Wednesday, we had Recruiting Country with Jason Howell. We talked our upcoming 2024 rankings. We talked about momentum and what it means. We talked about A&M's presence in Dallas in this recruiting cycle. So a lot of stuff there with Jason. And then we closed the show with D1 Baseball's Kendall Rogers and talking about just the state of college baseball, the impact of the MLB draft, and what that can mean for next spring's version of Aggie baseball. This is TexAgs Radio, and this is The Rewind.
Bronny, you have a topic for the day. I don't know if you want to read it.
No, you can read it.
All right. The topic is what conference outside the SEC and Big Ten will stay relevant in the new age of college football? Dave in Edmond responds to this and says, I hope all conferences die and we have divisions and playoffs like the NFL. If that doesn't happen, the ACC has the best chance. Big 12 died in 2011.
Well, if the ACC has got the best chance, then there's some news that came out late last night and started to get some reaction this morning. If the ACC is going to stay afloat and going to stay relevant, they're going to have to hold on to people and add Notre Dame. And Notre Dame last night is apparently leaning toward or would like to keep their independence in this new age of college football. So can they do that, Olin?
Well, they can. But, again, if they choose to go that way, there's nothing really that prevents the other power conferences to say, all right, well, we're going to move on and form our own organization and have our own playoff, and you're not going to be part of it.
I agree. This is an opportunity. I'm sure there are power brokers at Notre Dame that are not liking this direction because they see what you're seeing. Like, we cannot get left out of this, whatever this new thing is. We've got to be in it. But I would imagine that the other side, knowing the Notre Dame national brand and just my minimal interaction with Notre Dame folks, I would think that there's a part of them that this is an opportunity to flex. Okay, all these other schools are going into conferences into this new thing. We're going to maintain our independence and still be invited into this new thing because we're Notre Dame. I do think there are probably certain elements of the fan base that think that way.
I'm sure 99% of them do. But I've always maintained that, well, not always, for a long time I've maintained, and I said it yesterday, I'll say it again, Notre Dame's as powerful as the rest of college football allows them to be. If the rest of college football decides to flex, Notre Dame.
Well, I agree with you too.
Yeah. Everybody says, "Oh, college football isn't as good when Notre Dame's not good."
They make the same argument about Texas. What does that even mean?
But then you see it here more about Notre Dame, and that's just BS. When was the last time Notre Dame won a national championship? 1988. Okay. Has college football exploded since then and gotten even more popular?
Sure.
Well, but you can't do that without Notre Dame being good, right? So Notre Dame is, again, as powerful as the college. They're like France as a superpower. Yeah, France. We're gonna let you be a superpower because you're France. We like
you're very international this morning.
Notre Dame is the Swedish meatball of college football.
The ACC has got to act fast and do something though, because if they are going to stay afloat, they cannot let these teams be siphoned off. And this is happening at a pretty rapid rate in terms of, momentum shifting one direction. And then, there's a group of teams that are like, what are they going to do? We talked about Baylor yesterday, Oregon and Washington. I saw where Phil Knight would prefer that Oregon join the Big Ten.
Of course he would.
Over the SEC. And look, I would prefer that too because I want, personally, if the SEC is going to add more teams, and they are, Like, I want to keep this kind of footprint that they've got.
Somewhat regional.
Right.
Somewhat regional.
Just go from Texas north to Missouri all the way east to North Carolina and down to Florida and take all the teams from there and make that your super conference.
I did a little digging yesterday after listening to y'all, hearing you guys talking and my call in. Had a few conversations around the league, and it sounds to me like if the SEC yesterday could go and take Clemson, Florida State, and your beloved Miami Hurricanes, they would do that. They would also love to have North Carolina, but it sounds to me, from what I was told yesterday, is a lot of people are expecting North Carolina actually to go to the Big Ten, which would go, kind of what you guys are talking about today, how important it is for the ACC to rally and hold everybody together. Notre Dame's obviously the most important piece to that. Here's the problem, right? You know it, I know it, Olin knows it, everybody knows it. Notre Dame's an infinitely better fit in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in time, when push comes to shove, it's the Big Ten versus the ACC. You got to feel like the ACC is in trouble, especially with them adding an annual rival of Notre Dame in USC. With the Big Ten adding them. So, I mean, to me, the second most important piece might be North Carolina, because what the ACC holds on to is basketball and Tobacco Road, and if you break up the North Carolina-Duke rivalry, that's just an epic disaster for the conference as well. Not to mention the fact, North Carolina, NC State, Duke, Wake, that whole thing. But on top of that, they're one of the better football programs right now as well, because there aren't many of them. So I found that interesting, that a lot of people expect that North Carolina will be grabbed by the Big Ten. That was pretty interesting to hear.
Well, that is interesting. And I also, I was just reading some of your texts, and you were actually giving us this information during the first hour. I had my phone on silent, so I didn't see it. But one of the things that you were talking about is the political aspect that I was getting into, and you said I'm behind on that. So my question is this: like, these teams are going to fight, Billy, like Baylor and Duke and all these teams, like they're fighting for their lives essentially as income earners at a high level in college athletics, right? Because of the way this thing's shifting. So, like, do they have any hope of being included in any of this?
Well, I don't think they have any hope of the politics of it working out. I mean, here's what I meant by you were 10 years behind. That's what happened with A&M, all the fighting, all that, and the whole time, everyone on the A&M side told me the whole time, there's nothing they can do to stop it. They cannot stop it. This is it's just a wing and a prayer. It's also for their, the alumni of their schools that they're from, when they're trying to hang on to vote and say, hey, we fought for it. There's the theater of it. There's that factor in, but the whole time, there's nothing they can do to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a worry. It was all about, this is a major pain in the ass, is what it was. And these conferences and these teams have adjusted as well. That's why we all felt like, oh my God, what a blindside by Sankey and company. Well, they walk it right up to the finish line, and some would contend if it weren't for John Sharp's political, tentacles, he's got them everywhere. He's one of the more powerful guys in the state. Maybe A&M wouldn't have known at all, and he found out, and that's it. It got out there from the A&M side that this was happening. Had it not been for how connected he was and people in his circle, you probably don't even. That probably comes out without anyone even knowing.
Mm-hmm. Just a quick rundown of some things, some recruitments in Dallas, right? And maybe get some people up to speed on three names that I'll start you off with: Anthony Hill, Javian Toviano, and Peyton Bowen.
Well, Anthony Hill, the good news is he's planning to be in College Station for his official visit at the end of July. right there in time for the pool party. You know, he's down to Texas and Texas A&M, and he has no decision timeline right now. Summertime decision, I would not think that's out of the question, especially after the A&M visit. I would be very surprised if he does not end up taking that visit, just because of the relationship there he has with Coach Santucci and just how long he's been such a key prospect for Texas A&M. So I would think he makes that visit. But it's a very real competition there with Texas and Texas A&M. I do really like A&M's chances. So I would probably put them at a little better than 50-50. But there's a lot going on there. JV and Toviano, he told me recently, no summer visit plans, but he is looking at taking some trips in the fall. I would not count him out for the pool party at all. Just because he doesn't have those plans set doesn't mean he can't make those plans in the future. I would say there's a pretty high probability he ends up at the pool party. But right now, no visit plans, and Texas A&M continues to be really well positioned there. He's got a great relationship with Coach Rushing, and they're keeping in real close contact. And then Peyton Bowen, loved the visit. I think the visit, last month really, it only helped A&M's chances. He said A&M's in his top 3. But he is still committed to Notre Dame, and he made sure to say, hey, I haven't seen anything that's going to make me flip right now. Mm-hmm. I do think he will be back in College Station, maybe even a couple more times. But I don't see him taking an official visit unless he decommits. I think he's pretty clear on, I want to maintain my relationship there at Notre Dame, really love it, and I don't see him changing that unless taking official visits and really doing some things recruiting-wise, unless he's ready to really open things up and give a great look at his other options. But A&M continues to do great things there. If there's a school outside of Notre Dame that can reel him in, I would say A&M and Oklahoma are the schools to watch, and they've set themselves up well to make a run at it.
One of the things that I've been kind of on a soapbox about recently with college baseball is the timeline and the way things happen now. It's really kind of a post-COVID move for the draft to be on July 17th and for the scholarship renewals to be have to be done by July 1st. That's ridiculous, right? I know it's ridiculous, but is there any way that they're going to fix? Is there any conversations to fix that?
I have not heard anything from Major League Baseball standpoint, and I'll be honest with you. I think Major League Baseball kind of likes having an All-Star, the All-Star game, weekend, and as long as that continues to be the case, I don't think they're going to move it. Because here's the thing. Here's the reality of the situation. Is college baseball fans, including myself, coaches and whatnot, we complained for a decade and a half about the timing of the draft. We don't want it anywhere near the College World Series. We don't want it during the postseason. Well, MLB moves it way past the World Series. Well, now, we all have an issue with that. So on one hand, the timing is really ridiculous. But on the other, it's kind of like, we wanted it moved for the longest time. Now they've moved it. Now we don't like where they moved it to. So it's kind of like, pick and choose your battle, so to speak. But the one thing I could think of here is the thing about baseball is unique. And the NCAA has never really figured that out in terms of their legislation. They have, baseball basically follows essentially the same pathway as hockey and some of these other sports. And what they need to realize, and what the NCAA needs to realize, is baseball is a vastly different animal. So, maybe we have a situation, and you probably know more about the timelines of when schools start, but maybe we put a situation in to where, the scholarship renewal for baseball is different from other sports because
Absolutely.
other sports don't have a draft in the middle of the summer. So maybe they move the scholarship deadline for baseball to, let's say, the Wednesday of the draft. Because I mean, the fact of the matter is, Jim Schlossnagel, Nolan Kane, and these guys, they know who's coming to campus by the Wednesday of the draft. Because if Jace Lavalette or whatever gets drafted on day one, chances are probably pretty good he's going to sign. So I think if they did it, Wednesday of the draft, which is day 3, I think you pretty safely know who's going to campus and who's not in today's draft kind of environment.
All right, that's it. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. If you like what you see, subscribe to the channel. Helps our views, helps the algorithm, helps us here at TexAgs. Appreciate your guys' viewership and for tuning in with me the last couple of days. Dalton or Zane will be here to take you through the rest of the week. But that's TexAgs Rewind. This is Ryan Brauninger signing off.